All right, what's going on, guys? So this video is just going to be a video about the basics of creating mechanical part drawings using Autodesk Inventor. So the first thing that you'll actually need, of course, is going to be a 3D model. I've already got a 3D model here that's ready for us. And with this 3D model, what we can do is actually create those three orthographic views that we already know of: the front view, right view, and top view. Outside of that, we can also create other views as well, that are not in a traditional, the three orthographic views, along with the isometric. Nice thing about this is that we don't actually have to create any of the lines or anything that we're used to using AutoCAD for the part drawing. We can actually do it just using the model itself, and the program is sophisticated enough to go ahead and create those lines for us for each of the individual views. So in order to do this, we first need to go up here to File, and then come down to New, and then come over here to Drawing, and then we want to actually just go ahead and use the first template that's there. The reason why we want to use a template is because we want to use the title block and border for that. If we didn't go that route, we could always just go ahead and click on New itself, and then it'll take us to our standard Create New File. And when you're creating a drawing, you want to make sure that you're using the .dwg file extension. So the standard .dwg inside of the drawing drop down, we want to make sure that we click on that. And of course, we have the template up there as well. And then we just go ahead and hit create. We'll let that populate for a second. And here is our actual drawing sheet, fully equipped with the border along with the title block. One thing I do want to note is that this drawing is an actual individual file from your part. So in other CAD programs, sometimes you can create the drawing inside the same file as your part file. This one is individualized, so these tabs down here at the bottom, these are all individual files. So if I were to close out my part 1 file, I won't be able to see that anymore, but I'll still have the drawing 1 part or drawing file still opened up and ready to be worked with. So if you wanted to change your title block, you can do that by coming here to Drawing Resources and then go to Title Blocks. And then under ANSI Large, we want to right click on that and go to Edit. Once we hit Edit, we get now the option to change what this looks like. So I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to change any of the preset template values here for the dimensions of the title block. I'm just going to leave all of this the same. I just wanted to kind of show you guys what this looks like if you actually did want to go ahead and change it. And also, if you do change the values of the dimensions, I recommend not actually changing anything here. So like the company, creation date, check date, title, part number, all this stuff. The reason being is because these are all just basically pre-populated properties inside of the program that allow you to mention or state whatever all of this stuff is, and then it'll automatically add it to your title block. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. So I'll hit finish on that. Do I want to save any edits to this? No, I don't want to save. I didn't make any edits anyway. And what I would need to do in order to actually add information inside of this title block, I would just need to, I'm just hit the minus button here on these guys again. Just come up here to File, and then I'll just come down here to iProperties. And then within iProperties, we have a couple of tabs here: General, Summary, Project, Status, Custom, and Save. And this is where I'm actually going to edit all of this information inside of my title block. So inside of Summary, the author, I can put my name. I'll just put Press Junior in there. The title of this part, I'll just call this the in class part. If we had a subject or a manager, we can add that as well. Company, I'll just put Cincinnati State College. Category keywords, none of these actually auto-populate on this title block, so I'm not going to worry about those. For the project itself, let's say we want to have a part number. So we'll just say, I don't know, we'll just say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Stock number, we don't have that here. Description, we don't have it either. But you can add this as well, because when we go into assemblies, then it'll start to matter what this description is, describing the actual part. What's the revision number of this drawing? There is no revision for this one. It's the first one, so technically we don't have to put anything, but we can say this is revision A just so that we can see it, and it'll come up over here in this area where it says revision. Project, we want to add that. The designer, if I want to add my name here, I can. I don't believe the engineer populates in this area just yet, but I would have to come to status, and then engineer would be the engineer approved by. So I can just put here the engineer. I can put here the manufacturer, and I can put here check by. I'll just put QC for quality checker. And of course we can put dates, and that'll auto-populate the dates as well. Let's just say they check the dates at different times. And as I mentioned before, if I hit apply, it'll apply all these changes and keep this box open, so that way it basically save the changes, keep this box open so I can make more changes. But if I hit OK, it saves the changes and then closes out the box. So I know I don't need this anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see here, everything auto-populates. I got here, approved for the engineer, manufacturer, checked as a QC guy, drawn is myself, got the dates in there, got the company name, got the title of the part, got the drawing number, got the revision, got the sheet number, and also have the size of the sheet itself. The only thing that doesn't populate is the scale, because the scale is going to be based off of the first view that I bring in, or at least the first base view that I bring in. Alright, another thing that I want to mention before we get into actually adding in different views is how to change your drawing sheet size, and also how to add more sheets as well. So to add more sheets, pretty straightforward. We have a button up here that just literally says new sheet, and I can hit that, and then you'll see on the left hand side on our feature tree we have where it says sheet number 2, and then of course everything is still auto populated inside of our title block area no matter what sheet we're on. If you guys don't see this, that's perfectly fine. You can always come here to your actual sheet. If I was on sheet 1 again, in order to get on sheet 1, I just right click and hit activate. So if I was on sheet 1 again, I can right click on that, and where is it at? Not create sheet format. There it is. Sorry, so now the actual sheet 1. Go to drawing 1 up here, your top level item where it says drawing 1. If you have your part saved, yours won't say drawing 1 anymore. It'll be whatever you saved it as. So I'll just right click on there and then come down to new sheet. So this is a new sheet, which is the same exact new sheet as if I were to come up here and hit that. And then as I mentioned, if I want to edit my sheet, I can right click on it and go to edit sheet. And that way I can actually name my sheet. So instead of just sheet number 1, I can call it something else. And the main thing is going to be the size of the drawing. So for the most part, I believe the program always defaults to your D size drawing. You might be able to go in and change that in a setting or something like that, but it usually defaults to a D size drawing, which has a size of 22 by 34. If you drop it down to a C size, I believe that's the 11 by 17. Oh no, this is 17 by 22. B size is 11 by 17, which is paper that we're used to, and the A size will be our standard 8.5 by 11 paper size. This corresponds to your SI units as well. So if we were using millimeters, then we would just use the A0 through A4. I believe A0 is the largest one, and then A4 being the smallest one. So it just really depends on what your application is, what you actually need. I think A3 in my book is pretty much equivalent to your D size. It's kind of like the default if you're working with millimeters. I'm gonna keep this as a D size drawing because I know my part is in US units, inches and feet. And then also if you wanted your drawing to be in landscape versus portrait, so I have here currently in landscape, I can switch it to portrait. I don't think it'll change here, but at least in this preview window it'll change just slightly, and you can see the difference there. And then the location of your title block, you can select either on the bottom right, which is standard for like 90% of the drawings that I've come across, or you can change it over to the left, the top left, top right. But like I said, I'll just go ahead and keep mine the bottom right there. Then I hit OK. And if I did make any changes, then that would display in my title block. My size drawing would change, and then my sheet orientation would change as well. Next, I want to show you guys, since I did mention going over to millimeters, well, how do we actually put our drawing in millimeters? Because when I put dimensions, it'll still come up as inches. So what you want to do is come here to Tools. You then want to come here to Document Settings. And right here under the Standard tab, it's currently set to your default ANSI. I can hit the drop down there and set it as the default ANSI, but in millimeters. So if you do have a part that's in millimeters, just make sure you come in here, Tools tab, Options ribbon, Document Settings icon, and then change your standard annotations to the ANSI. Then I hit close on that. Nothing really else inside of document settings, by the way, that we have to go in and change. If you wanted to, you can set a few different other settings. But as I mentioned, I don't really go through and change a whole bunch of settings unless I really have to. Same with application options. All these settings here, I don't generally go in and mess around with them until I really have to. So we'll just leave that as is. The last setting that I do want to mention, which we won't really touch right now, but I just want to mention it, is going to be under the Manage tab. And right here under Styles and Standards, we have this Styles Editor. And inside this Styles Editor, we are able to change the size of our text. So there is going to be a case where sometimes our dimensions come up as a little bit too small, and we want to make them a little bit bigger. And this is where you would do that at, along with a whole bunch of other things. Like if you had any hatching and you want to set the size of your hatching, you can change that as well. So these are pretty much all the standard settings that you would need for the actual drawing itself. And then we'll kind of go over a little bit of that later on. So I hit cancel. Now that's really just the gist of actually getting the title block and border all set up, your paper sheet all set up before you add in any views. And when you do want to go in and add views so that you can actually dimension, you just want to make sure you're in the Place Views tab. And then the first one you want to add is going to be the base. So I'll click on base. And we'll get this nice little box that pops up here for our drawing view. If we did not have our part currently open, so right now my part is currently open. You'll see it down here. It's already open. So the program registers the fact that it's open and expects you to make the drawing from that part. If for whatever reason you did not have that part open, it's perfectly fine. All you would have to do is hit this button here that says Open an Existing File. And then you'll be able to open an existing file. It'll take you to your file manager. Take it to your final manager. And then you could actually sort through wherever you saved your file at. Hit Open. And then it'll pop up here. And then you'll start to see the preview of the view here. Model tab, display options, recovery options. I don't really mess around with any of these. Maybe any recovery options if you need to, but my computer is pretty adequate enough to hold the program, so I don't really need to do anything with recovery. But I always save often anyway. Model state and design view. Again, don't really need to mess around with any of this just yet. The main thing that we're going to look at is the style and the labeling. Now with the style, the automatic preset for any view is going to be in wireframe mode. You just have to tell the program if you want it to have hidden lines or no hidden lines. So this button right here on the left is hidden lines being shown in wireframe mode. And this button right here in the middle is going to be all your hidden lines being removed, also in wireframe mode. Now if you wanted it to not be in wireframe, if you wanted it to be shaded, then what you can do is hit this button right here that says shaded, and then your view will come up actually looking like this. So currently right now this front view that we have here is shaded, and if we did not want it shaded, then we can, if we did want it shaded, we can make sure that we hit this button, turn it on, and then we can toggle between hidden lines shown and hidden lines removed. But if we did not want it shaded, we will just untoggle that button and it won't be shaded. So even though it does show up shaded right now, this is again just a preview. Just make sure that this button is not selected and you'll be perfectly fine. It'll come up as non-shaded. Not shaded. Now for the view identifier and the scale, what we would want to do is actually set a view identifier, which is basically just labeling the view. It's not 100% necessary. Some places have it, some places don't. For us, I am going to go ahead and just type in front view here. And then for the scale, scale is currently at 1/2. And as you can see here, now this shows up as scale on our title block. And if I were to change the scale, let's say I want to do 2:1 instead, that now changes to 2:1. If I want to do 1/4, it'll change to 1/4. Let's say I want to do really big, 10:1, I can do that. And as you can see, everything turned gray, but that's only because my part is now 10:1 size. So I'm going to leave mine at 1/2. That way I can actually work with it and I can get all my views on here. And then lastly would be your labels. These two buttons here, currently right now you don't see the label, but these two buttons here are what allows you to show the label and hide the label and also edit the label. So if I wanted to edit the label, I can click here, and right here where it says view identifier, well, that's what the label, or that's what the part of the label that'll show. And as you can see, it's grayed out, so it's really just a preset property which corresponds to this view identifier here. And the scale again is another preset property. This corresponds to this scale right here. So that'll actually show 1/2, and then this part right here where it actually says scale, this is the part where we can actually type in and write stuff. This is not a preset property. Now for us, I really don't want to show the scale because I know that this view is at 1/2 scale because the drawing sheet is at 1/2 scale. So the drawing sheet is what tells all the other views to be 1/2 scale, so I don't need to show this anymore. So I'll just go ahead and delete all of that out. And then I'll just go ahead and leave my view identifier because I do want to show that it's the front view. I don't want to change any size or anything, and I'll just hit OK. So now that I've edited that, I can now toggle the visibility so it turns on. And then I'll just hit OK here to actually show my view in wireframe mode with the hidden lines being shown. And you'll see down here at the bottom, I have my label as front view. I'll go ahead and move this up here a little bit. So now once we have our main base view, the other thing that I always like to add next is just going to be my isometric view that is actually shaded, that shows basically what this part looks like when it's fully completed. So I'll do another base view. Again, this one is now going to be an isometric. In order to make it an isometric, remember this view cube here, we can always click on different aspects of this view cube. So not just the front, we don't have to just hit these right and left sides, top and bottom and stuff like that. We also have these arrows to rotate things, and we also have these different corners and edges of our view cube as well. So isometric is just basically this part of the cube here where it can see the top, front, and right all at the same time. And if you make your part the proper way, you can actually see everything. So I guess sometimes students, make their part a different way, and they try to go into isometric view, and it doesn't actually look right. But this one was made, in a way to where you can actually see the top, front, and right views all at the same time in isometric. I do know that I want this to be a little bit smaller than my main view. So right now it's set to a scale of a 1/4 inch or quarter size scale. So I'm gonna leave it at a quarter. It's isometric, so I don't really need to show any labeling. And then also I want to make sure that it becomes shaded. And I do not want to have any hidden lines being shown inside the shaded mode. So I'll leave that there, and I'll actually click on the drawing itself, or the view itself. I'll bring it up here, and then I'll just hit OK. Now the next type of view that we can add is called a projected view. And this projected view is basically a projection of any side or aspect of another view. So right now we have our front view. If I want to show the right side view, I will need to project off of this right side here. And the way to do that is just go here to project it. The first thing that you want to do is make sure you read down here. It gives you a little description of what to do next. It says to select the view. So you want to basically select which view is your projection going to come off of. In our case, my projection is coming off of this front view here. So I will click on that. And now you can kind of see that I can project off pretty much in any which direction. I can go isometric if I wanted to. I can go top, right, bottom, trimetric, all that. So I do know I want to go over here to the right. And I can kind of tell it's already a little bit too big, so I'm probably going to reduce the scale on that. And I'll just click there. I'm still in projection mode, or the projection command. So that's why that green box is there now. There's a green box there saying, hey, there's a view there, but you can continue to make more views. And then I'll just place another view up here, which is the top view. And click that there. And now since I'm all done placing views, I can just right click and hit create. And it'll create my views based off my main base view. Now if I wanted to move these views, I can move them, but just keep in mind that they are always in alignment with your main base view. So if I try to move it up and down, you see my mouse moving up and down. I can't actually do that. But left and right, I can move it because it's still in line with my base view. Same with this one. I can click on my top view and try to move it left and right, but it can't move left and right. It can only move up and down. Now if I move my base view though, I can actually move pretty much everything all at the same time. You can see everything moving. I can place it here. Why? Because again, those are projections of my base view, which means that they always want to stay within alignment of my base view. Now with this size and scale of my views, I really can't get a good way to place these views without overlapping anything else. Like this overlaps the entire sheet here. This overlaps the title block there. So what I want to do is actually just go ahead and make my base view smaller and make everything else smaller, or B, just make these two smaller themselves. I'm going to choose B because I want to show you guys how to edit views. So you can click on a view, right click, and just go here to where it says edit view. And then up here you can see everything is currently grayed out because everything wants to remain the same as the base view, because the base view is kind of like the parent, so it wants to stay the same as the parent. But I can hit this check mark here and tell it not to scale from the base, at least for this one, and say, hey, I want this to be a little bit smaller. I want this to be like a quarter of the size. And I also want to come here and show the view label saying that the size is smaller than the average or the base view. And then since I'm showing the view label, I'll just go ahead and set the view identifier, which is right view. And then I hit OK. And now you can see my view is smaller. I've got my label here, right view, and also has a scale, which is a quarter. And the reason why, again, we need this is because the scale for the drawing is a half, but we're telling it, hey, this one is not at a half scale. This one's actually at a quarter scale. And again, it's going to stay in alignment. And I'll do the same thing for my top view here. Go to Edit. And then I'll just change my view identifier. Change my view identifier to top view. I also toggled this button here off, saying that I don't want it to be the same as the base, and I'll set this to a quarter. And I'll show the view label so that everybody knows it's a quarter. And then hit OK. Bring it down slightly. And there we go. Now the next thing that I want to do is actually go over what an auxiliary view is. And an auxiliary view is just basically a view that shows an object that's at an angle more to its true size and shape. So as of right now, I have a hole here on my part. This hole kind of looks more like an ellipse versus than a true circle. If I gave a dimension on it, if I come here to annotate and gave a dimension, it'll still give me the same dimension as it needs to be. Like right here it says 5. But in some programs it won't give you that size. I think in other programs it might say, well, true size is whatever it needs to be. In this case it's 5. Some programs will just say, hey, this is not they can't give you a radius because it's not a true circle or whatever, it's an ellipse. So those need to be defined a little bit differently. But in this program it at least gives it to you. But again, I just want to visually see it the way that I know that it looks like. So the best way to do that is by using an auxiliary view. And again, the auxiliary view, anytime you make views, you want to tell it which view to be based off of. In this case, it's going to be our base view. When you see down here on the left, it says select the view. So I'll click on my base view. And then down here on the left again, it says to select a linear model edge to define the view orientation. So the edge that I want to place is going to be this edge here. Again, this angled part. If I wanted to, I can change these settings first. So I can set the view identifier as to be whatever I need it to be. I can add the label to it. I can change the scale of it, which I probably know I want to make it I'm gonna leave it at a half scale. I'll leave it at a half scale, and I don't want to see any hidden lines. I really only care about this circle part, so I just want to keep it that. And view label A is perfectly fine. If I had other views, it'll auto-populate the correct letter, but I do want to show my label here, so that way everybody knows it's view label A. And then I'll just hit the angle there, and now you can kind of see my circle at the true size. So I'll go ahead and click to place it, and there we go. Now one reason that I wanted to keep it the actual size at a half scale is because I want to actually be able to see my circle at the true scale size, but I also want to actually add this to a different sheet. So for whatever reason you need to have more than one sheet in your drawing, as you see over here, we already have another sheet, which you'll right click on it and go to activate. We already have another sheet. There's absolutely nothing on this sheet just yet. Everything is currently on sheet 1, but I can add views to this sheet here. The way to do that is by coming back over here to sheet 1, hit activate, and then my view here that I want, I can literally just click it, drag it, and place it inside my sheet 2. And I can just place that there. And again, I can come now here, hit a dimension, and get a true 5-inch diameter dimension on that circle. So again, anytime that you have a dimension that is at or if you have a view that is at an angle, try to do a auxiliary view, and that way you'll be able to see it a whole lot better there. So now I'm going to go back to sheet 1. Whoops, I'll just hit OK on that. Go back to sheet 1, hit activate, and I have my view here. The next view that I want to do is a section view. And this section view is just basically going to create a section cut inside my part that'll show everything that's inside of my part at that section line. So I want to come here to section. Of course, it wants to know, okay, which view are you going to create a section out of? I'll click on this view here. And then it's going to ask me to enter the endpoints of my section line. I generally just go for 2 endpoints of a section line. And I'm going to do this top view here. I generally go for 2 endpoints of a section line. And that way, you know, I'll be able to actually set what I need it to be. You can do more. You can like jog it and do more, like a straight and then an angle and then come back straight or something like that. But generally section cuts are, you know, just straight across. So the endpoint of it is just going to be, I don't know, I'll say about from here, come straight across to that line there. As you can see, it allows me to create more lines, but I don't want to, so I'm just going to right click and hit continue. And here is my section line. Depending on where my mouse is, it's going to show my view either on the top or bottom. So think of the arrows as eyes, and if I were to keep the arrows pointing upward, then it's me looking up at the part. But if I go on this side, the arrow is pointing downwards, and it's me looking down at the part from this side. As you can see over here, the view label box popped up. It's already turned on to show the label. The scale is already set to the base scale. I can make it smaller, bigger if I wanted to. And the view identifier is now B. That auto-populated since I already have an A. And then I'm going to leave it as no hidden lines. And I think I want to do this side here. So I'll just click that. And there's my view, but I don't really see anything. So that brings me to how to edit this view line. Currently right now it's set to right on the edges. That's generally not the way that you want to do it. So what I'm going to do is actually just right click on that and go to I think it's edit. And that way I can take this line and actually drag it off and make it a little bit bigger here. And that'll change where my view starts and stops at. And I still don't see anything. And I'm wondering, did I click on the right view for my, hopefully I did. I'm gonna do that again because I should see something, but I'm wondering if I clicked on the wrong view. I think I might have accidentally clicked on this view than that one. I'm gonna just move this. Maybe. I just want to see something real quick. This will tell me right now if this will. Yep. Okay. So I accidentally clicked on the wrong view when I was creating my section. So that's why nothing showed up, because I'm on this view here, but as you can see, this view is only in this area and there's nothing up here for that view itself. So that's why nothing was showing up, because I was cutting through a part that is not even associated with that view. So that's my apologies on that. I will actually, since I'm already on there, I will just go ahead and just right click and edit this section again. And this time I'm just gonna hopefully make this I don't want it to be horizontal, so I'll delete this constraint. There's a horizontal constraint on here. I'm just gonna delete that, and then I'm gonna make this way now. and then I hit finish, and there we go. So now this is my B view. I'm going to move this scale label down. I'm going to move this label down as well on this guy. Come on. Doesn't want me clicking on it. There we go. Alright. So that's how you do a section cut. And that's also how you change a section cut and edit it, so that way you can see everything. Now this view label here is getting really close to my title block. I don't care for that too much. And instead of actually moving my main view, so this technically would be the base view for my section cut, and you can see everything is in line with one another. What I want to do is break this alignment. I don't want this to be in line with this anymore. I do have my section label here, so this is BB. So no matter wherever I put this, it automatically corresponds to this BB section line here. Same with my auxiliary view. If I wanted to, I could add a line here that says, hey, this is where the auxiliary view is coming from, which actually I probably should. And that way it'll mention it, but I'm going to leave it off for right now. But in order to break the alignment on this guy here, I can right click on it, go to alignment, and then right here go to break. Another way to do it is, I don't know if you guys noticed it yet, but there's a big button here that says break alignment. All I have to do is just click on the view, hit the drop down, and go to break alignment. And once I do that, I can now take this and move it wherever I want to. So your views don't always have to be in line with one another. It's just nice to have it in line with one another. That way all the lines add up and line up with one another. It's like my edge lines here should add up everywhere. But since this is a different scale, I can kind of move things around a little bit. Alright. Next up would be your detail view. And a detail view is really just a blown up, zoomed in version of any part in your drawing or view. I currently do not have anything that I want to detail. So what I'm going to do is show you guys now that you can also edit your parts. And when you edit it, it'll actually take effect in real times. So if I come here and go to my in-class part 1, I'm just going to create a a chamfer on my legs here. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to create a chamfer right here on these edges here. And I'm going to just increase the size of them like so. I'm going to just make it an even 1/2 inch, 0.5. And then once I do that, I can hit OK. And you can see they're there. I can save that. And now if I come to my in-class part, everything auto-populates, and you can now see those chamfers right here on these legs. But if I were to look at this drawing from, let's say, about here, and I try to add in a dimension to it, let's go to annotate dimension and try to add a dimension. It's really tiny. It's really hard to see that. So what I would want to do is actually just zoom in on this aspect of that chamfer, and then with a whole different view, and then place that one in there. So let's come here now to place views, and then go to detail. Again, the first thing it's going to ask you to select which view you want to work off of. Make sure you're selecting the correct view, because as we saw, I selected the wrong view last time. I'm going to click on this view here. As you see, my view identifier is C now. The scale is still at 1:2. I know that since this is a zoomed in version, I want it to be probably a little bit bigger. It did make it a little bit bigger than the current. So my scale is at 1/4. It made it 1/2. But I want to make it like 2:1. I want it really big so I can see it. And then the fence shape, I'll leave it as a circle. And the cutout, I want it to be jagged, so I know that there's more to this part. And then next thing is down here at the bottom left, you'll see where it says select the center point of the fence. which is basically is the center point of your circle. And my center point is going to be probably about right here. That way I can drag off a nice little circle, really showing that chamfer there, like so. And I'll click, then I'll zoom out and just actually come up here and place my view about right there. So now you can see I have a nice little circle for my detail view. Call that detail view number C, or letter C. And then that corresponds to this detail view C here, where I can actually get a real good view of my chamfer. And up here is where it was jagged, saying that, hey, this is not the end of part. There's more stuff above it. So now if I put in a chamfer, just go to dimension real quick, I can really grab that line, put in the chamfer as a dimension on there. So I'll do that here in a minute. So go to base views now again. And really the next few ones I'm really just going to talk about. I'm not going to actually create the views just because this part here doesn't necessarily have any views in per se for me to work with that really shows them pretty well. For example, overlay. If we do an overlay view, well, that's just if you have a part that moves, more like an assembly, and that assembly has two different states, like a on state and off state kind of thing. And then you can go ahead and add a overlay view in both those states. I'm going to skip nailboard, connector, and draft. Break view. The way I like to describe a break view is that if you have a light pole, the light pole is pretty much the same from the ground all the way up to the actual light itself. So there's no really a reason to have a drawing with a 20-foot, 30-foot, 40-foot long light pole, where you can actually have a smaller drawing and just create a break in it. So you would just create like a break line from at the top and the bottom, and just say everything in it is going to be the same, or everything in between those break lines are going to be the same, and then outside of that is where the actual information that you want to see is going to be at. Next to that is going to be a breakout view, and a breakout view is just basically a mix in between, I'll say it's a mix in between a section view and a detail view at the same time. You're going to just basically take a broken out section of a detailed portion of your part, so that way you can see, like, inside of it a little bit better without having to actually create a full section in it. And again, I don't really have anything like internally going on in this part here, so I'm not going to worry too much about making one of these, but that's there for you as well if you need it. Alright, so that's pretty much all of our views here. I do see this lightning bolt right here for my sheet number 2. This lightning bolt tells me that something needs to be updated. I can come up here to where it says update all sheets, or just update, and that way that lightning bolt will go away. Or I can come in and right click and hit activate, and more than likely it's probably that chamfer. As soon as I go to it, it updates, and then I think it's that chamfer that comes up, which I don't see it here, but that's the only thing that probably need to be updated on it. And then since I'm here, let me see, I can right click and edit this view. And I don't believe I can do it from this side. I might be able to, but okay, I don't see it on here. What I was trying to do was just add that view label on your base view so you can see where view AA was coming from. But I don't see that right offhand, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I don't think it's restore view label. I guess I can, yeah, it's the same one there. No biggie. All right, so the next tab that we're going to work off of is going to be the Annotate tab. And in this Annotate tab, we have what we call dimensions and a whole bunch of other stuff. The dimension is probably the only one that we're going to really work on, at least in this video. One thing outside of that is probably just going to be text and center lines and center marks. So in order to add in a dimension, you really just click on dimension here. You don't need to click on a view for this one, but you just need to click on either A, an individual line, or B, 2 points. Because remember, a line is nothing but just 2 points that are connected to one another. So for example, if I wanted to come over here to this view here, I can say, hey, I want to know what height is this part here. So I can click on this line and it says 10 inches. Or I can say I want to know what's the total height of everything from top to bottom. So I can click on this point here. I can come down here to this point there, drag off, and then I can get that dimension. And then also if I want to, I can add in another dimension here. And the reason why I would want to do that is because your part always needs to be fully defined. So remember, these drawings are for manufacturing and inspection purposes. So if you were to hand this over to a manufacturer of some sort, actually this is probably, I'd actually probably want to take this and drag this down to this point actually. Let me cancel that. Yeah, this keeps popping up. Let me hit escape. I'm still in the dimension command. Yeah, that's why. I was still in the dimension command, but what I want to do is add this to this point because I don't want to factor in that chamfer there. That's better. Yeah, so when you're making your drawings, you want to make sure that you fully define it, fully show all of the aspects of your drawing, so that way someone can actually make it. But you don't want to over define it. You want to make use of your, like your reference line or reference dimensions and stuff like that, which is basically a dimension in parentheses, saying that, hey, this is just on for reference only. It's not a major dimension. But in this case, we have the 1575 getting the whole height. We have this portion of it being 5. We have that portion of it being 10. So then the last portion is really just this, which if we do 10 plus 15, 10 plus 5 is 15. And then 15.75 minus the 15 leaves only 0.75. So if we add in a dimension here, I go hit on dimension, hit the line, that should come up as 0.75, which it does. So now this dimension again, since we don't really need it, I would actually double click on it and turn this into a reference. In order to do that, you would just come here. Where is that at? Right there under precision and tolerance and reference. And then as you can see right here, it actually has a parentheses around it, which makes it a reference dimension, which tells anybody to look at it only for reference purposes. If we were to do a basic dimension, it just puts a square around it. And when we get into GD&T, that'll make more sense later what that is, or we can leave it as default. So I'll just set this to reference. And then again with GD&T, if you wanted to add tolerances on there, we can add tolerances as well. In regards to your text, if we had for some reason, actually no, I'm gonna do that another one. And also, by the way, I have mine checked off, but yours is probably checked on as this is your first time using it. The program gives you the ability to edit each dimension when it's created. So yours is probably checked on. So anytime I make a dimension now, let's say I wanted to just make a dimension of this guy here, hit dimension, click on that line, place it. This box will automatically pop up. I personally think that's annoying. I don't need this box to pop up for me to edit anything every time I need or add in a dimension. So I personally just go ahead and uncheck this box here, and that way this box does not pop up and I can't edit this anytime that I create it. Any dimension that I create, I will have to just go in and double click on it, and then this box will pop up again. Or a single click also. If I'm still in the dimension, if I'm still in the dimension command, I can click on it once and then this box pops up again. So yeah, so let's go ahead and just add in a couple more dimensions here. I want to add a dimension here, giving this the size there. You would also have to add in a dimension from here to there, giving it the location along the back edge there. If this back edge was a datum, you could do the same for the location from here to the midpoint here, locating where that is. Again, you don't never want to dimension to what's it called? You don't ever want to dimension to hidden lines, so I'm not going to worry about those. But I am going to dimension from there to there, so that it knows where those are. Oops. Hit escape a few times. Just keep those in line with one another. Probably the same as this one. Keep that in line. And then I'll probably just go ahead and give a dimension for this angle here, from there to there, and make sure that they know it's 45. I think the last dimension that this would need, and I'm actually just going to try and drag this up like that. The last dimension that this view would probably need is just a dimension from the back edge to the front edge, saying that it's at 15. I might be missing a dimension or two, but I'm not going to worry about too much. I just want to show you guys how to put in dimensions. And then for here, same thing. I'll just come in and add a dimension, and I'll say that this is going to be a radial dimension of 2 inches. Now, since there are technically 1, 2, 3, 4 radial edges, I don't have to put a dimension on each of them. I can just say, hey, there's 4 of these, or this applies in 4 places. So what I would do is I would double click on here, double click on your dimension, and what you can actually do is actually type inside of this area. So I can say that if I want to say something after, and you'll see it in here as well, after, if I want to say something below, if I want to say something before, if I want to say something at the top. So I can write all that in there just like that around my preset property for my dimension. I can also take everything and justify it in the center, justify it to the right. As you can see, my leader line here, my leader line is currently at the top here. I can justify it so my leader line is in the middle. I can hide the dimension value and just write text only. I can do quite a bit of things, but for the most part, you just want to add in stuff before it, such as, hey, this applies in 4 places, so I'll just put 4x. I'll leave that as is. I'll leave that as is. Just put 4x there. So that basically just says, hey, there's a radial dimension of 2 inches in 4 different places, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Outside of that, I think the only thing I would need is the length from top to bottom here. I would also need the length of this line here. And I already have the 2.5 inches coming from the back edge there, but if I wanted to, I could put in another reference dimension for that, which I won't because I don't feel like crossing over that part like that. But I will need from here to here. Whoops, dimension from here to here. That's 5. And And I guess just for fun, I can put in a dimension from here to here, which is 8.81. I already have the full length of it as 15, but again, if I wanted to, just for reference purposes, I can get dimension in there for 15 and just double click on it and set it to reference. Now for my chamfer dimension, the easiest way to do a chamfer dimension is by using literally this button here that says chamfer, and it'll allow me to make a chamfer dimension. First thing I need to do, as you can see down here at the bottom left, it says to select a chamfer edge. I can click on that. Then it's going to tell me to select the reference edge, which is just basically a horizontal surface or a vertical surface that I want to reference off of. And I'll just click on this bottom side here, and that'll tell me that my chamfer is a 1/2 inch by 45 degrees. And then for items that have hidden lines, again, you really don't want to dimension 2 hidden lines, but since I did have this section view here, I can just take a dimension and I can say, hey, this is from there to there, the depth of it. I don't really want to do it that way. When we get it to GD&T, I'll show you a better way to do it to showcase the depth of it, but not sure the best way to grab this actual depth of that. Usually you can grab it better that way. I'm not going to worry about too much. Yeah, like this one, I just saw it. Come on, there it goes. Like this one, I can get 5, but then it can give me that 3.5 that way and 3.5 that way. So let me see if I can, maybe if I go closer to the line, maybe. Let's see, the line is there. Click on it. Yeah, so that's what I want. I want it that way, but it won't really grab unless I'm like really close to it. There we go. And I'm just going to hold down Control to flip it to the other side. So instead of on this side inside the part, hold down Control to flip it. Click. And I probably will drag this off like that. So that way I can grab that one. The actual length of this line, remember this is just the circle in my sheet 2. So if I come over here and activate sheet 2, I have that dimension there already, 5 inches. So I don't really need to re-add that in. So I'll just leave that. And then like for example this guy here, I can add a dimension for this height. Set that at 3. And then the width of this is currently 1.5. And again, if you look at the bottom, right here, you can see these hidden lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in my case, for this guy, I would say there's 6 of them by doing 6x. And I guess I would have to do the same with this one. 6x. Hit OK. And that's really all about it. I don't think I really want to add anything else to this one. As I mentioned before, if I wanted to edit my hatching, I can come here to my Manage tab, Styles and Standards, ribbon, Styles Editor command. Wait a few seconds to think about it. And now I can go here to hatching, hit the plus button, click there. And let's say I want the scale to be half, like 0.5 instead. And the angle to be like, I don't know, 70. And hit save and close. And now we have, looks like more of them in there had a 1/2 inch. And then I can go back to Styles Editor. And now if I wanted to change the, let me hit cancel because I want to really be able to see it. So right now it's probably kind of hard to see these dimensions a little bit because they're so small. So what I would end up doing is coming here to my styles editor, the dimension itself, to change the text of it. The best way that I found is just by coming not to, most people think, okay, I'm gonna go to dimension and then do it that way, which I don't think that, let me see, I'm gonna change this to 0.24, hit save and close, and that doesn't actually change it. So I don't know why, but it doesn't actually change how the dimension looks. But if I go back to styles editor, and instead of changing the dimension, text or whatever from here, what I would end up changing is the actual text down here. So I'll come here, hit the plus button, hit text, and it's basically like a note. They call it a note text, and it shows you the text height here. And I'll set this now to 0.24, and when I hit save and close, you'll see automatically all these dimensions will increase in size. I'm actually going to make it like 0.36. Let's do 0.36, hit save and close, and those dimensions automatically update. So why that is, I'm not 100% sure, but just make sure you go to styles editor, and then go here to text, hit the plus button, and then go to note text, and then go to your text height. I do have to find a better way to do this because this also updates your note text down here. So I'm going to say there is a better way to do this, but I generally just try to make it something that's not too humongous. What was it before? 0.12. So I'll probably pick it like 0.15 or something like that. Just make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I'm going to just do like 0.2 even. Save and close. And that way you can kind of see it a little bit better. And that way your text here for your scale and your sheets aren't as big anymore. So something I had to try and play around with and figure out a better way to do that. So going back into the annotate tab, I've shown you dimension, I've shown you chamfer. Text, again, is really the only thing that I have next. Just wants you to locate the location of your text where it's going to be. I'll just click from here and I'll just put 1. This is a random note. Again, you can set the size of it here. Currently right now it's just set to your note text ANSI, or you can set it to label text. So that's where this 0.2 comes from. And I'll just leave that as is. And that's how you add in a note or text per se. And I can just click this and drag it a little bit closer here. And there we go. And then I think the last thing would be your center lines. In order to add in a center line, it's going to ask you for like center mark or center points. In this case, I can't really give a center point. I can go from there, but it's not a center point down here. So I'd probably only be able to use this center line command inside of this portion here, where I can actually go from here to there and here. Whoops. Forgot to, from there to there, and then click to stop it. Then I can go to the next one from there to there, and then you can see it still drags it off, but I can click about there to stop it. And then I probably can do this one also from there to there, and click about there to stop it. And we probably have to go in and edit this one. Go in and edit this one, the style. So that way I can, I don't even know which one is which. basically change these gap sizes. So probably change B to be a little bit bigger there. So let's say let's just do like 0.318 or something. No, that looks like make it too big. So I'm gonna make it smaller. No, it shouldn't be smaller. One of these will do it. I'm not exactly 100% sure, so I'm not gonna spend time to play with it. But this will be something that if you guys do run into this issue where you're not actually seeing your center lines properly, then you can just right click, go to edit center mark style, and then you should be good to go. And then to get these guys over here, since they don't really have a point, I would say best thing to do is use this center line bisector. It's real easy. You just basically tell it which lines to go in between. So I want it to be between this and this, places it, that and that, places it, that and that. This one's easier to me in my opinion. And then here for this one, between that and that. And as you can see, it automatically placed it with those gap lines in there perfectly well. Technically, we would have to do this one also. And that section line just basically takes precedence, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then also, if you want to do your center marks, so we have a button here that says center mark, and we can just come in and click on these guys. Oh, they get a nice little center mark there. And then for again my sheet number 2, I can activate that and also place a center mark on this guy as well. Go back to sheet 1. All right, and there you have it. So pretty fully, not a complete, but a full drawing with everything that you could need to make a drawing. Again, we went over how to change your title block, how to edit the title block itself, and add in your information in there. It all comes equipped with your border that just comes straight from your template. We went over all these different view types that you can add in there, how to break alignment, how to add new sheets if you need to, how to place the view on a sheet, which is just click on it, drag it into your sheet. We went over a couple of settings as well, document settings here, and then style settings there. Document settings mainly just for your unit, and style settings mainly for the size of your dimensions and notes. And then we went over annotating, which is annotating what adding dimensions, chamfer dimension, adding text, adding center lines, hidden lines, stuff like that. And then, like I said, next time in class we will go over your different items here. That's like parts list, ballooning, symbols, callouts, surface material, stuff like that. Or surface finish and material, sorry. Alrighty. Thanks.